Welcome to the Fantasy Hockey Picks and Bets show on the Mayo Media Network, presented by Prize Picks. I am Matt Moody, joined by DJ Mitchell to go through March 11th NHL Daily Fantasy Slate and, picks and bets and all the other good stuff there. DJ, how you doing?
We're doing. I'm doing great. It's gonna be Thursday when you're listening to this, and I'm off on Friday, so it is like a Friday for me feeling right now. I have just on pins and needles. I'm wearing one of my favorite jerseys I own. You have to check this out. We got the not the Screaming Eagle, the black throwback Capitals jersey, Jaromir Jagr. It's one of my favorite. It's
a beauty
on it. I mean, it is worth the price of going on YouTube. So I'm feeling good. I'm feeling
what's that hat you're wearing, Deej?
Oh, it's got the Seattle Kraken. I mean, this is the logo. I mean, this is the logo that matters. Like their Kraken logo is fine. Like I get it. I like the little tentacle thing, but the CN Tower, right? Is it CN Tower?
The Space Needle.
No, Space Needle. CN Tower in Chicago.
Yeah.
The Space Needle through the anchor. It's so freaking cool. So very in on that. So I am absolutely repping the hottest merch in the game. Let's get right into it, though.
Yeah, I mean, one of the key things, about hockey is you look good, you play good. So I think when you look good, you bet good, you play DFS good. But we can definitely get into Thursday's action. First, I want to talk to you a little bit about Prize Picks. Make sure you head on over to prizepicks.com and sign up using the promo code MMN, as in Mayo Media Network. Over on Prize Picks, you will make entries based on the over-unders of actual player fantasy performances. So for the NHL, you get 3 points for a goal, you get 2 points for an assist, and you get a half a point for a block and a shot on goal. It's super simple. You just pick the over or the under on up to 5 players to make your entry. And you can win up to 10x your original entry fee. So make sure you head on over to prizepicks.com using promo code MMN. So DJ, let's get into this Thursday night action.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that might stand out to you if you're kind of looking at all the games at once is there are a lot of very long odds as far as these games are concerned. We have 10 games. 7 of them will go off at 7, and then there's a 7:30, 8:30, and 9 o'clock. Another weird kind of thing, I believe this is the first time this year we're going to have a team playing on the road versus a team in less than 24 hours. The Montreal Canadiens are on a road back-to-back starting at 11 and then going to Calgary and playing at 9. So that might lead to maybe a little bit of different tactics. But we can get started. We're going to go game by game. So we might as well get started at the top. Matt, are you ready to talk about the Rangers at the Bruins?
Yes, and fortunately, the Rangers are not playing at 6 p.m. like they did on Tuesday, so we don't need to, talk about them and showdown or whatever. Like we're right onto the main slate for DFS purposes. So here the Rangers head over, shipping up to Boston. Let's say Boston minus 195 over under 5.5 right away. This sort of seems like a spot. Artemi Panarin's back. Boston coming off of a couple losses. They haven't been putting up a ton of goals. I'm kind of feeling this Rangers money line here, plus 165. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty torn on the money line. I do think the Rangers are a decent bet here, but it's really going to come down to if Panarin actually plays or not. So it sounds like he's available to them and should play. There's really no reason he shouldn't play. It's not like this was injury related. If he does play, his plus 240 to score seems pretty fun. Just kind of as like a bet I would maybe rather take just taking the Boston or the Rangers money line. Like if the Rangers win, what are the odds Panarin scores? I think it's decent. Maybe not quite the same equity you're talking about there, but it's fair enough. So I'm going to be looking at those player props, trying to figure it out. Unfortunately, right now we're not getting any because maybe they're just not sure what it's going to actually be for their lineups and everything. So I like the Rangers here. Okay, I think that's a fair bet. I think Boston wins this more often, but like the plus 165 is worth doing. What are your thoughts on the over-under, though?
Yeah, I think I like the over here. The Rangers are not a team that I'm afraid of defensively. And, Boston has been held off the board a bit. Like, they're definitely not putting pucks in the net like you would expect for a team, that employs David Pastrnak. That said, I think there's a lot to like on both sides here. So I'm, pretty comfortable attacking this over. I definitely like any player props around, say, Artemi Panarin. Just I like to score. I like to get a point. If he doesn't play for whatever reason, that bet will be voided. So it's not like you're super at risk or anything by going with that, because if he's in, I think he plays just a top tier role like he always does. So, hope everything's all right with him and his family and all that.
Yeah,
but
if you're listening to this podcast and you're not checking lines 30 minutes before the game to see if a player goes off, like, you're missing a crucial step in the process. So definitely make sure he plays. But we'll be tweeting that. I'll make sure to get a retweet as soon as I find out.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. Any other players maybe deeper down the board you like? Like, we have like a guy like Matt Grzelcyk who's on the top power play at 4-1 to score. That seems a little, like, it seems fine for a guy, but Matt Grzelcyk's not a guy who shoots a ton. Any of these deeper plays, maybe Adam Fox or
I mean, I guess the way I'm looking at it more than anything else is just, what are the lines going to be? If we get news that we still have, Zibanejad with Lafreniere, I think he's fine. But if we get news that Panarin joins that trio, like, now Lafreniere at plus 375 is like really, really, really enticing. So I'm going to be interested to see what the lines are. I could definitely see them putting Zibanejad and Panarin together in any capacity. And that third guy with them is going to be really enticing to me, because he's just, unless if it's Kreider, like, they're going to have really long odds to score and they're going to be in a really great spot. So it is going to be a game time decision with what I end up doing in this game.
All right. So let's go from there over to Pittsburgh at Buffalo. The big news in Buffalo is, Jack Eichel out. Sounds like it could be a longer term thing. So, hoping for some more clarity there, but definitely Eichel will not be playing on Thursday night. That means Dylan Cousins steps into the top line center role. He's certainly got the pedigree. He did play a good game there on Tuesday, earned some rave reviews from his line mates, from his coach. And that top line in Buffalo, Hall and Reinhart did do their thing. Reinhart scoring twice and Hall picking up a couple of assists. Is that enough for you to think that the Sabres at home plus 175, can make this work? Or are you just piling on the anti-Buffalo bandwagon? Pittsburgh minus 210 here. Like, it's crazy, the odds that we're getting on, what used to be a pretty competitive Sabres team.
I mean, the Sabres have broken me, and I really just hate betting on their games. But I think there's a few different angles to take in this one. Number one, I think that every line that isn't that top line in Buffalo could get just caved in, more or less, especially that fourth line, Eakin, Akposo, and Ryder. Hopefully they don't see a ton of ice time, but when they're out there, they're going to get absolutely just beaten up, as they have every other game. We also have just a very bad defensive core overall. So I think any way you want to attack with Pittsburgh is fair. The one thing that you mentioned on our other show, the Morning Podcast, was the fact that it does seem like Evan Rodriguez will be playing with Malkin. I'm trying to find his to score odds. I honestly don't even see them on DraftKings. I'm not sure if I'm missing him in some capacity, but if you can find it, I'm sure it's going to be very, very long. So that might be something to attack. Other than that, I think it's kind of the usual suspects in Pittsburgh. And you could talk me into the Taylor Hall to score. I mean, he shoots so much. He has to right now. He's going to be the main guy there. At plus 235, I think the progression is going to hit for him. And he's going to get back to, having at least, a fraction of the goals he is used to.
I certainly, I mean, it is kind of strange that Rodriguez has not been posted yet on the sports book, but, I'm guessing that gets up there, no problem. He's probably going to be a fine value. I think I'm just sticking to this top line in Pittsburgh. Sidney Crosby, a point per game player this year, 9 goals, 15 assists. He has 32 shots on goal in his last 10 games. So, he's definitely picking up the shots as the season has gone on. I just think that he's the guy that I want to be building around here. I don't really want to play around with Evgeny Malkin stacks. Like, I get it. Malkin could hit his ceiling. I just think that Crosby, Gensel, and Rust and maybe Chris Letang too, power play and all that. But I just think that those three guys are the ones I really, really want to build around here. It's not going to be contrarian, but with 10 games on the slate, and like you alluded to, plenty of monster favorites on the slate, I think we should be safe in terms of massive ownership here on Sidney Crosby. So he's my favorite guy here. I think betting the over on his shot prop, it'll be around the 2.5 range. I think that definitely makes a lot of sense. Especially if Buffalo keeps it close, they're going to give up a lot of shots. And they're probably going to give up a lot of goals too. So, Crosby multi-point game, absolutely in play for me. But any other guys that you think, make for solid, longer type bets here?
I mean, I think the multi-point game from him or Gensel is fair if you can find it. I think the Rust, Hall, Crosby shot props are going to be super in play where they end up panning out to be. Other than that, long odds, I don't think you're really going to want to get too insane here. I think it's the Rodriguez one if you can find it. And like you said, hopefully they update it because it's just not on the books right now. It's going to be the longest odd from this game that I'm going to be considering. Other than that, I think, the Pittsburgh side minus 210 in a parlay is fine. The 6, I think, is pretty right on the nose. 4-2 empty netter, 6 probably hits. I probably just not going to touch it. I don't have a lot of faith in the Sabres getting more than 2. So you're really going to be hoping for a, blowout in that capacity. So,
I talked about it on Tuesday's show and it ended up hitting. The Sabres have been playing with a lot of tempo. They didn't score against the Islanders, but they were playing with pace. They have been playing with pace, and they're obviously allowing a ton of goals. So, I think the over is absolutely in play here. On Tuesday, they hit 9 goals in that game. So, I think the over 6 is a good bet here. So with that in mind, Dylan Cousins, longest shots to score, top line center, didn't get the top power play billing. That was actually Ristolainen who went to the net front, but I still think Dylan Cousins at plus 400 playing with the guys in Hall and Reinhart that he is, should see a lot of minutes. Definitely good value there, in my opinion. Let's get over to our next game. The Islanders hosting the New Jersey Devils. The Islanders minus 205, over under 5.5. DJ, what are your thoughts on this one?
I feel like every time the Islanders pop up, the math is leading me to consider the under. I think it's fine here. We did actually get new New Jersey lines, if you will. So they didn't do exactly what they started with what we had planned, and we talked about in the last podcast, but they did switch it up, and lines on March 10th were Zacha, Hughes, and Palmieri together, kind of getting away from those random guys like Maltsev and Kukumainen or whoever it is. So that top line, Kokkonen, yeah, sure. So, it's kind of going to be back to reality with that, and the Jack Hughes, the score line always kind of speaks to me a little bit, but Kim, Zacha, and maybe Palmieri, but I think any of those 3 to score just seems way too out there. Them getting shut out is, I guess, in the realm of possibility. It can be, but I think that they have enough offensively, and they have normally pushed the pace enough and did against the Capitals again to lead me to believe that they could get a couple goals. And, that line is definitely the play driver for them, the power play guys. So all 3 of those are in play for me. And I'm not sure where I'm going to land shot props. I probably just don't really get involved with it in this game because I don't know if the pace is going to be incredibly high. But I'd rather just either not take it or, kind of exclude it from my parlay in general. Or maybe just take the New Jersey side at plus 175 because I don't think it's, way out of the realm of possibility that they win this game.
Yeah, I'm sort of on the side with the Islanders, but I think that instead of the first line, I love Matt Barzal. He's a guy who we talked about a lot on the Moneyscape podcast, just in terms of his price tag at 6,000 on DraftKings and all that. Like, the talent he has is undeniable. But in terms of stacking, I don't love paying up for a guy like Anders Lee. I think that, you'll get his odds a bit juiced when you go to bet them. I think getting shares of the second line, Brock Nelson coming off a game with another goal, Anthony Beauvillier still playing a really good offensive role, should be top power play. And Josh Bailey, he's definitely the third guy there who I don't love. He doesn't have a ton of, shot equity or whatever. But just like those three guys in DFS are super cheap. I think you can get decent odds on Brock Nelson anytime goal plus 240. First goal 13-1. Again, I'm really in on the Islanders side of this, so I don't think there's a ton of guys on New Jersey who's going to steal that goal from me. So if we're talking about the Islanders, 13-1 first goal, I really like Brock Nelson there. I think he's just he's really played his way into a guy that I just look at night after night, and it's been working out, honestly. So I'm going to keep riding it.
All right, no, I think that's fair. I mean, it's definitely very, very cheap on the DFS site, so it's in play, but I'm not sure personally how much I'm going to have of it. Like I said, I think I agree with you. The Islanders are, odds on probably going to win this game, but I'm not sure if there's any prop that's going to be head and shoulders above the rest, especially if you're parlaying it. It might be better to take a couple of these straight. So, other than that, is there anything you want to mention, or you want to get right over to Washington at the Flyers?
No, I think we're good there. So let's get over to Washington heading into Philadelphia. This game, the rare pick'em type matchup, both sides minus 108, over under 6.5. So this one, projected for a lot of up tempo pace type stuff. So what are your thoughts on either side here or the over under?
I mean, I really do like this game to have a good amount of goals. I mean, the Flyers have been susceptible, as we mentioned, and that game definitely went over against Buffalo. I think the Capitals could, again, put up 3 to 4 goals. Ovechkin could not have ran colder. I mean, on the ice for 2 goals, no points, 24 minutes of ice time, 4 shots on net. I think we're both on the same page that this dam is going to break. I mean, over the past 2 weeks, he has been far and away the highest Corsi per 60 guy in the league. Over the past 5 games, I know he's been head and shoulders above the rest. He's plays all the power play minutes. Everything you could possibly want for a guy, he's doing it. And this is a great matchup again. So I'm definitely going to get involved and invested in some of these props for him. I like his shot prop again. I like his to score prop. It got worse, plus 125. It's not a guarantee, but I think he scores more often than not in this matchup. So that is a good starting point. Matt, do you want to add anything, or
I think taking advantage of this Flyers team that they haven't really figured out what they're doing defensively. It's kind of been a surprise because they do have the talent. Guys like Sean Couturier are just dragging this team to be offensively competitive, and defensively, Carter Hart, be what it may, they just haven't been keeping the puck out of their net. And I think that this Capitals team has a great chance of continuing that trend for the Flyers. Last time we saw these two teams, I believe it was also in Philadelphia, a 4-1, 3-1, 4-1 victory for the Capitals. Nevertheless, it was convincing. So I think that, I'm going right back to the OV Wild, like you said, anytime goal plus 125, absolutely in on that. A guy a little bit deeper down the board who I think has also pretty good odds is Jacob Vrana at plus 230. He's sort of been growing into this guy on that second, or on that top power play unit, where even though he's a secondary guy at 5-on-5, he's not getting a ton of ice time. He just continues to put up goals, and he's so talented. I think I prefer Ovi if I'm picking one from this game, but at slightly longer odds, I do think you could get away with Vrana. So on the Flyers side, we saw Claude Giroux and Jacob Voracek start the game with Oscar Lindblom. That was pretty interesting. I don't really know where your head's at on this one, DJ, but Jake Voracek plus 330 to score a goal.
Yeah,
that
was my favorite takes last time. 10 shots on goal in the past 2 games. He's still smashed in DFS with the assist, and I'm going back to it. I mean, they are trying to set him up. He does have a good shot. It's not going in the back of the net, but that should break. I mean, this guy gets another 5-shot on goal game and doesn't score. I'm going to drink more beer than I planned on drinking this weekend. So, and that's already a lot. So yeah, it's really, really good odds. I don't understand it. The other guy deeper down the list is Shane Gostisbehere. Now, taking a defenseman to score is always inherently super risky, but we're talking about a guy that has been a very good Corsi player when in on the top power play, and just a guy that's always willing to shoot the puck. I wouldn't take it in a massive parlay by any stretch of the imagination, but it just seems a little bit off base for me. A guy that's had, 6 shot on goal games multiple times in the past, month. That could happen again. 4 goals on the year. I think that's a little bit off, but safer, much better play over the course of, everything to play Voracek. But I think Gostisbehere is also very in play.
Yeah, I mean, Eric Gustafsson, who has 1 goal on the year, has slightly, more likely to score a goal based on the sports books. And yeah, Shane Gostisbehere is one of those guys, defense-wise, who I think is actually a bona fide goal getter. So yeah, I don't hate that bet at all.
Yeah, so any shot props you want to mention? I feel like we kind of skipped over them again, but I mean, Voracek obviously won, Ovechkin, and if you can find it, those are really the 2 I think here. I'm not gonna get crazy.
Yeah,
is there another player you wanted to mention?
The Giroux, I think is probably
if you get Gostisbehere at 2.
That would also.
That was on FanDuel before. It was on FanDuel before too. So if you get it at 2 and it's not terrible, I think it's fair.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm definitely siding with the Capitals here. That's I think that was pretty obvious in terms of the over/under. I don't know. I might stay away from that.
Yeah.
So let's go over to Nashville at Carolina. This is starting a run of games which are repeats from Tuesday. So, if you listened on Tuesday, thank you for coming back. I know, sometimes when I say things like Alex Ovechkin is the greatest goal scorer of all time, I got some hate in the YouTube comments for that. And I've just, we don't need to rehash that again. But anyway, thanks for coming back because we appreciate your viewership.
So we were so mad about that. It was really funny. I was like, I think he's one of the, goal scorers of our generation. You're like, all time. I'm like, I wasn't even alive for these guys. So
I mean, video did exist in those times, fortunately. And we saw what it was like. Anyway, so going back to this Nashville at Carolina game, honestly, this feels like it's a common refrain for a lot of the Carolina games recently, but tons of tempo. Pucks were flying around the ice. We saw almost every Carolina guy except for Andrei Svechnikov get there in terms of shot props, points, all that. So very sad on that. But this game is a game that I want to target. So at a 5.5, I really like the over there. Carolina minus 235. I think that's a little long, but you got to consider on the Nashville side, there's no Yossi. There's no Ryan Ellis. Now there's no Dante Fabro, suspended 2 games for an elbow to the head on Tuesday night. I mean, they're a couple injuries away from putting you and me out there on defense. So, any interest in this Carolina side or the over here?
I have quite a bit if they put me or you in on defense for sure. But I definitely in on the Carolina side here. It's pretty tough to stomach minus 235. But if you take a parlay and you want to throw it in, if there's not a prop that you're super strong on because Svechnikov will have like 14 attempts and not get any on net, then, go right ahead because they'll just break your heart and make you want to cry. That was me. I'm sorry. I'm just flashback to Tuesday.
Are you projecting?
I am projecting. I love the over. That's the first thing I'd say here. I almost would rather take the over than like take the huge negative equity on the Hurricanes, but I do think it's fine. More than anything here, I just kind of want to highlight Sebastian Aho, I think, just as a guy that I think is really him and Hamilton have been kind of the guys on the power play. That's where you get a lot of goals, obviously. And I think having a lot of these younger guys, if you will, stepping in and guys that, I think Jeremy Davies, I've never heard of him until tonight, and he's on the top power play for Nashville. So again, like they're focusing on those 2 guys in the power play. I want to get those guys involved. Multi-point Aho game, I think, is in play, as well as, just a DFS, a great 2-man stack. Really, any way you want to stack up that first power play, I think it would be a lot of fun. So Matt, is there anything you want to touch on, and maybe even Jeremy Davies? I mean,
yeah. So I guess we'll touch on the Jeremy Davies first because he certainly is fantasy relevant. Betting wise, you're never going to find a shot prop, let's be honest, but you're not betting on this guy to put up points or shots or whatever. You're mostly playing him because he's an assist guy on the top power play unit with, dynamic goal scorers such as Philip Forsberg and Eli Tolvanen. He's 24, which I was kind of surprised by because he did get a little bit of juice from the prospect writers that I could find for the Predators. Last season in the AHL, he had 28 points in 62 games for the Milwaukee farm team. Yeah, so that's certainly inspiring. Slightly under 2 shots per game, so we're not expecting a sort of rates guy, I would say. Definitely profiles as a smaller, just looking at his statistical profile, honestly, I thought Sam Girard. And then I thought, wait, they traded that guy away. So let's not rile up the Nashville fans too much by saying that. But, that's sort of what he looks like, which is to say he's not super relevant, except for the fact that he's going to be the dead minimum on DraftKings on this slate, where it's very useful to have a guy like that. So, Nashville seems to have figured out their power play. And their power play is get the puck to Philip Forsberg and Eeli Tolvanen and let them pick corners, let them make plays happen. I think Davies will do just fine at that. And so, yeah, my favorite bet in this game is just the over 5.5. I'm not really looking to play the Russian roulette of, which line for Carolina scores the goals. Is it going to be a 4-2 type game, or is it going to be a 3-3 that goes to overtime? I don't know. So I just think getting the over 5.5 gives me blanket coverage to this game. I don't really have to worry too much about the individual pieces. But if I were to worry about that, I think I'm just going to go back to Svechnikov. Like, there's no reason for, like you said, he had a ton of shot attempts. I think he had at least 3 or 4 blocks that I remember watching. And I was literally, with 7 games on at the same time, I was just like, beep, 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 just clicking through all these games. And yeah, Svechnikov always had the puck on his stick. So I don't feel bad about that one at all. And I'm going right back to a shot prop, even to score. I think just a bounce back game in general. Jordan Staal doesn't score 2 goals too many times without Svechnikov getting there. So that's, just my thoughts there. But anything else here?
No, I think you nailed it. I think everything you said was spot on. The only other note is to always, when you're kind of making your DFS lineups, make sure. So just double check what they do, because there is a chance that, we get Tolvanen back on that top line and that plus 360 is just still egregious. So let's get over to Florida at Columbus, which ended up being one of the highest shot on goal totals of the night on Tuesday. Unexpected for sure. So Matt, I guess, just kick it off from there. What are your thoughts on this game? Are you, thinking this has, kind of bounce back high? It was a 6-goal game. Florida got the win. I think it was 60 something shots on net. So are you kind of thinking that might happen again, or are you thinking this might get back to what people expected here?
Yeah, I mean, Bob had to make 40. I guess he had 40 shots on goal against him. Like that. That's nuts. This Florida team, we'd seen them, basically smother the life out of a team like Dallas a couple of times even. And we saw Dallas, what they could do Tuesday when they get the free reign. So that was kind of a surprise. I'm still not completely sold that this Columbus team is capable of scoring. They have Laine, they have, Cam Atkinson. I certainly like those 2 guys, especially on fantasy sites. But the over-under is 5.5. I kind of feel okay about that. But I do feel pretty good about this Florida. They're road favorites, sure, but minus 136. Just doesn't really feel like it's high enough. I'm really just kind of in on this Columbus team being a bit of a train wreck. I've been saying that for a few weeks now. And I think the only teams they've beaten in the recent past were like maybe 1 game against Carolina and a couple like Detroit's. Let's see, they beat Dallas. That's right. But yeah, I mean, they're just really spinning their wheels, especially on offense. So I'm immediately looking to a guy like, Alex Barkov, of course, because he's great, but also, Patrick Hornqvist, usual suspects. So I just think that building around those guys on the Florida side are how I want to attack this. But DJ, any thoughts on your end?
I think everything you said, I more or less agree with. I'm probably not touching the over-under. I consider the Florida side, but I think the best bet in this game, because this game actually seems to have all the props loaded, is Cam Atkinson over 2.5 minus 134. That just seems really strange for a guy that had 7 shots on goal and 14 attempts last game, I think was the number, and just as of late has been really firing the puck. I don't understand this line. It's just kind of off. So I think this might end up being, predecessor my favorite bet of the night. As far as a prop is concerned, there's really no reason for me to believe that he's not going to continue this. Especially if you like this game, not even to hit the over, just if you like the Florida Panthers side of this, I think Atkinson's shooting is going to be really strong. That top power play of Atkinson, Foligno, Laine, Rostovich, and Werenski, Atkinson is conceivably the trigger guy there along with Laine. So I like that a lot. I talked about in the Morning Skate podcast, just Atkinson and Werenski. It's a good, pretty cheap 2-man unit that, if they end up scoring 2 or 3 goals, they could very easily be involved in all of it. But Atkinson over 2.5, I feel very, very good about that.
Yeah, it's that number. I do agree with you for sure. Like Cam Atkinson over his last 10 games is averaging 2.5 scoring chances per game. He's got 33 shots over those 10 games. He's really just getting to dangerous areas. He's putting a ton of pucks on net. So I do think that line is a pretty good one there, especially if they are trailing and need to just be firing like they were.
Just confirmed good. He's confirmed good at hockey. Like, I don't know why we're even.
Yeah. So one other guy that we alluded to this, so kudos to us, I guess. But Mason Marchment did wind up playing on that top line next to Barkov. Their third line mate was Verhaeghe. So, obviously Verhaeghe's been there for a while this season. He's priced at plus 220 anytime goal in the exact same type of role. Let's say, first line, second power play. Mason Marchment plus 510 to score a goal. You're getting better than 5-1 odds on a guy playing with Barkov to score. You'd be crazy to not just sprinkle a little bit of dough on that. Maybe as a one-off, you don't want to parlay it too much and get, too crazy. But that's just a guy who, again, nothing's guaranteed. But if you're talking, situations to be in as a goal scorer, that's one you want to be in. And, riding shotgun to Barkov. So I just think that's one that the books missed on entirely right there.
Yeah, they did not adjust.
No, they did not.
If they looked at the lines, they threw them out the window and they didn't care. I mean, obviously confirm he's with Barkov if he's back with your Lomberg and your other guys of that nature. Just screw it. But
again, they won. He had a pretty decent game. He had
4 shots on that.
He had 4 shots on goal and played 16 and a half minutes. Like that's exactly what you want to see.
Highly doubt they switch it, but just make sure before you put $100 down or something stupid, like make sure that. So, okay. Is there anything else in this game you want to cover before we get to the Winnipeg Jets at the Toronto Maple Leafs?
Nope. Let's head over to Toronto. So we saw Toronto lose this game on kind of surprisingly on Tuesday night. They are minus 180 in this spot. Austin Matthews making us look like fools. He said, wrist, what wrist? I'm going to score 2 goals, put up 6 shots on goal. So that happens. Coach Keefe definitely, maybe led us astray by saying, the wrist was, really hampering his wrist shot. Like turns out Austin Matthews could probably score 50 goals one-handed. Like, just he's an absolute monster. I think any sort of bet around this game probably should start with considering him. So DJ, any thoughts on, the Leafs side of this or the over-under, which is currently 6.5?
I think the 6.5 is a decent spot to attack. I'm not incredibly strong on it, but I think it's fair. I just think, Winnipeg is pretty inept defensively. So especially I'm kind of thinking Hellebuyck doesn't start, but we don't know yet. If it's Brossoit, then I just, I'm going to attack that over. I think that, they had 7 goals the last game. Probably not going to be Anders and Hellebuyck. It'll probably be 2 guys that just aren't nearly as good. And I think that both teams have enough they're going to give up defensively to make that worth a while bet. The one guy that I think, could get some goals and also just over the 2.5 shot, Kyle Connor, plus 170, I think is fair enough for the goal. I'm not sure if I'm going to be attacking that too strong, but over 2.5 at minus 155, it's like they just keep dropping it. And I don't exactly understand why. He's still the, trigger guy in the power play. He's, I'd say him and Ehlers pair really, really well together. Both of them really good. I think Connor is going to hit over 2.5 way more often than not. It's really rare for him to have anything under 2, and generally speaking, he hits that over. So that's probably another one of my favorite bets of the night. I don't know why. Again, like those 2 guys, those are staples of my parlays, for sure.
Yeah, like you can respect this Leafs team defensively, which I mean, honestly, you don't even have to. They've shown the last 3 games that they've played well. I'm not going to say they've gotten run out of the building or anything, but you can definitely put shots on goal against these guys. And Connor's a trigger man; he loves to shoot. He has 42 shots on goal in the last 10 games, and that's on 63 shot attempts. Like, come on, people! Like, 2.5. Especially if they're trailing. Again, it's just one of those things. It's like, I get it. The odds aren't the best, but still minus 155 gives you a lot of wiggle room. You're talking, 60-ish%, and 60% of the time he absolutely gets there when he's averaging 4 shots a game. And there's always the chance that he does get promoted to that big boy line, when he gets, it hasn't happened yet, but when it does, like, boy, his shot prop, I think, just gets absolutely flattered, insane.
And I think his minus 139 to have a point. He has 24 points in 25 games. It doesn't quite seem to fit. It's like they're for some reason adjusting for I don't know what. I don't know. So I think that any way you want to look at Kyle Connor, he's one of my favorite players on the entire slate on DraftKings, on FanDuel, and everything about him, I'm in on it. So that is definitely going to be one of my, just key pillars of the slate.
Yeah. And, let's talk about this Leafs side here because, of course, they're a big favorite in a 6.5 game. They're going to have some, high implied team total. And I think John Tavares is a way to get exposure to that. He hasn't really had the ceiling game we're looking for yet. I think it's coming. I absolutely love building around him and Matthews both in tournaments. Like, they're playing together on the same power play. And of course they're not playing together a ton at 5-on-5, but they do sometimes. They put together that hero line, after commercials or before the end of a period. It happens. So you definitely could run into something like that. But just in general, that power play role, I don't really see how Matthews at minus 275 is a better bet than John Tavares at minus 143, given they share that power play. So that's just my first thought there. Unfortunately, it's only Marner and Matthews to get multiple points because that actually might be pretty enticing to me too. I'm just betting on a big game coming sooner rather than later from John Tavares because he's getting a lot of opportunities. He's playing with Willie Nylander, who, we've talked about really liking as well. So I think I'm mostly building around Matthews, but of course building around Tavares as well, and maybe trying to make them both work.
And I do think that we're going to get Zach Hyman up with that Marner Matthews line. They did kind of switch over late in the game, and it worked. Hyman looked very good out there. He, I believe, led them in 5-on-5 time, or was really, really close.
Played like 24 minutes. Yeah,
he must have led him in 5-on-5. I just can't see why they would change that. It seemed like he was like the best guy going for them. So Hyman, if you like, the Marner Matthews line, either of them have over 2 points. It's well within the realm of possibility that Hyman scores at plus 270. So I'm in on that. Even like the Hyman first goal at plus 1,700. Just that's like a long odds bet. I think that he has a much better odds of scoring over Blake Wheeler. So
okay, let's go to yet another repeat of Tuesday night. Tampa at Detroit. Now, Detroit was frisky. They made this one pretty close. Gotta hand it to them. A lot of the guys who we really liked on the Tampa side didn't really come through for us. I'm not too afraid of that. It happens sometimes. This is a Tampa team that's 18-4-2. They're minus 335 favorites here. Detroit plus 275. I just don't think you can, even with Larkin in the lineup. We basically saw their best efforts on Tuesday, and they still fell short. So over under a 5.5, I think, is kind of interesting. It's also kind of misleading because of how many goals are just expected to be scored by Tampa in this game, just a massive percentage of them. So I don't know where your thoughts are, Deej, but I'm not even sure I can go with the puck line here for this Tampa side. I think I'm literally just staying to the player props. But is there, an edge that you think you have, on the team sides or anything like that?
I mean, I would consider the Tampa puck line, but I don't know. It's the same thing from last time of like, are you really going to put something down that you feel like lukewarm about that's getting terrible, terrible odds? I mean, at the end of the day, these are all professional hockey players with a lot of pride. And Detroit being this big of an underdog, I think plays into it a little bit. But overall, I just wouldn't touch any of the, over-unders or anything like that. I'm more focused on getting the right pieces of Tampa. I really like a multi-point game from Victor Hedman if you can find it. I just think that he is so heavily involved. And if Detroit keeps it at all close, I mean, Hedman had 26 minutes last game, all the power play one time, penalty kill time. He is just a multi-point game in the making every single night. Probably my favorite, the most expensive, but my favorite play over on DraftKings and on FanDuel. Just put him in with anyone. It doesn't really matter who. I know I talked about the Stamkos Killorn kind of connection because the 5-on-5, it's a good bit cheaper than going point Palat, although actually really not that much cheaper. Honestly, they're pretty fair, either one of them. But Hedman is just such a strong play. It does kind of think that he's minus 200 for a point on DraftKings, and you don't get that multi-point opportunity. So I might look over on FanDuel to see where that odd lies. Anything else you wanted to mention in this one?
Yeah, I'm with you right there on Victor Hedman. I think he's my favorite defenseman of the night, like in fantasy circles. We look at the last 10 games, and of every single defenseman in the league, Victor Hedman has the most expected fantasy points per game of any defenseman. The next closest guy to him on this slate is Dougie Hamilton. Basically, you're talking about like a 20% gap between the two. Victor Hedman's playing a really good brand of hockey. And of course, they've done that against, a relatively weak Chicago team, and obviously last game against Detroit, but they're still going against Detroit. So you can't really use the matchup argument when they literally have the best matchup. So I'm right back there on Victor Hedman. Unlike you, I'm just going back to Andre Palat and Brayden Point. I don't think Cirelli's of much interest to me, but you can get to score on Palat at better odds than Stamkos, Point, and Killorn. I know Palat's been getting a lot of assists lately, but he is firing the puck. He is in that role in the power play where he's the guy who they're trying to get one-timers to open, use Stamkos to pull guys away and then just hit the cross seam. And that's going to work. I think that strikes, more often than a Killorn, net front scramble. So I just prefer Andre Palat, honestly. And, DFS too. I just really like Point and Palat. So that's where I'm going, but certainly understand getting shares of Stamkos and Killorn as well, because there should be goals aplenty here for Tampa.
Yeah. The Stamkos shot tip Killorn seems fair, but it doesn't matter. Betting on a tip goal is difficult at best. I agree. I think Palat's a better take as to score just in general, but either of those stacks are fine. Do you want to move on to Chicago at Dallas, the rematch of the massacre?
Yeah. Just gonna. I feel like we're allowed to victory lap sometimes, but we sat here on Tuesday going just jam this Dallas side. They're way better, and I'm pretty sure the line moved at least 15 points in Dallas's favor based on that game. Because Dallas right now is minus 148. I still think that's
it's the DJ Moods bump. It's just the DJ Moods bump.
Or the hey, Jason Robertson put up 4 points on your sorry asses Chicago.
Mr. Robertson.
So whatever it is though, this is, going to be another pretty good matchup. I'm actually kind of surprised the over-under got left at a 5.5 because
I like the over.
Yeah, it got there on Dallas alone, and Patrick Kane wasn't even involved. So that's one thing. Game. Yeah, right. How mean? How rude.
But did you like the fact that all of his sisters did a congratulations from the Sabres arena in throwback Sabres jerseys?
I did not see that, so okay. I do like it now that I've heard about it though.
Yeah, it was the old school red. It was the white jerseys with the goat head. All three sisters and the dad staring at the Sabres rink, and I was just like, "This is awesome! Bring them, just do it." Anyways, though, back to this game, what people actually care about.
Speaking of Patrick Kane, if you're interested in a longer read on Patrick Kane and growing up in the Buffalo circles of junior hockey, The Athletic had an incredible article about basically talking to some of his old junior coaches, juniors teammates. And just how insanely talented he was, despite being basically, he was that kid who was basically strewn aside because he was too small. And so it's just a really good read, really interesting perspective into a guy who obviously in his professional playing career has gotten some notoriety for, some off-ice incidences, let's say, but just a really interesting read. It was Mark Lazarus at The Athletic, always does good work, but I highly recommend that read, on your lunch break or something if you're interested, because I thoroughly enjoyed it. But anyway, let's talk about some bets here.
Yeah, I mean, are you at all interested in Mr. Patrick Kane at plus 200 to score?
I kind of think I like to brink it better at plus 220,
Either or. No, I agree.
Yeah.
I think those are pretty crazy. Like not like Dallas is fine. They're decent defensively, but man, are they? I mean, these are the guys. I mean, if Chicago is scoring goals, it's coming through them. I'm going right back to the Joe Pavelski over 2.5 shots. Like we mentioned, we like the over. We like this game in general. I think I like the pace a good bit. Pavelski only had 3 after his 10 shot on goal game before, but 3 gets the job done. Threes get degrees. I don't know, whatever you want to say. I'm in on it. I think he goes right back and gets it again. So I'm going to be taking that and maybe one of those goals I mentioned. And you could talk me into the multi-point Pavelski game too, plus 320. I think that's a little bit longer than I would have thought.
I'm mostly. I think the to score odds on Kane and DeBrincat are the best odds here, besides that Pavelski shot prop that I'm willing to bet.
It's so weird. Okay,
I think you're looking at the same thing that I'm looking at. You're seeing 1 point for Patrick Kane at minus 286. That's Austin Matthews level. And I get that Kane's not the scorer that Austin Matthews is, but DeBrincat, same thing, minus 225. That's Mitch Marner levels. He probably is a better scorer than Mitch Marner is. And you're getting DeBrincat at plus 220 to score. How many times is DeBrincat just getting an assist? I don't know. But it certainly doesn't feel like it lines up with those two odds in comparison to one another. So I'm definitely more leaning toward this DeBrincat goal or the Pavelski shot, depending on, which over you want to take, which side of this game you like. But I think those are 2 really, really strong bets.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't even think we need to really dive into anything else. The plays are obvious. And correlate right over on DraftKings or FanDuel. Get to the last game of the night, Montreal, Calgary. I mean, it's a 5.5. I don't think we've seen a Canadian 5.5. I thought that was a myth. It didn't exist. I kind of agree with it, though.
Yeah. Some of that could be due to, the fact that Daryl Sutter, he's going to make an impact on this Calgary team. Will it be a good one? I don't know. Will it be a good one for fantasy? Probably not. But luckily for them,
both teams new coaches and the Sabres are we'll keep our guy.
Yeah. So we get the Canadians coming in here after, an 11 o'clock game on Wednesday night, 22 hours between games. That's usually something that only happens on the weekends, Saturday into Sunday type stuff. I have to imagine that, just makes Calgary a better bet here. So Calgary at minus 118, Montreal plus 102. I already kind of think that Calgary has a slight edge. I just, again, don't really see the goal scoring from Montreal. So I think I'm in on the Flames here. Well, what about you?
I agree. I think the Flames are a pretty solid bet here, especially at home. With Montreal on that back-to-back, I think it does play into this. And I just overall don't think Montreal is as good as their record indicates. And I think Calgary is a bit better than their record would indicate on the season. So I just like Calgary's defense. I think it's good. And I think that they could stifle the scoring that Montreal needs to stay in this game. But I think overall in this game, if I'm betting on it, I think Calgary is really strong. I know you like this as well, but the Johnny Gaudreau plus 235 to score, again, just doesn't quite add up to me. He is still Johnny Gaudreau, and he's played 25 minutes last game and all the power play time and scored on the power play. And Matt, I guess I'll just send it back to you on that. Are you still riding Johnny Gaudreau here?
Yeah, it's definitely not the guy I feel the most sure about on this entire night. But in this game, I mean, Johnny Gaudreau is just, I think he's really underpriced, especially over on DraftKings. You're talking about a guy who, yes, it is a pretty difficult matchup. It's no Ottawa matchup, like you just mentioned. He scored last game, but he's priced at 5,600. He's nearly a point per game player, has 11 goals on the year. Sure, he's got a bit of an inflated shooting percentage, but I don't really expect that to, come to a screeching halt, especially against a Montreal team that can't seem to buy a save at the moment. So, we'll see how it looks like Jake Allen will be going. So he's actually been slightly better than Carey Price. I'm not sure how many times the Canadians fans need to hear like, oh, the backup's actually better than Price, but it's happening again. So in any case, though, it's just too cheap for Johnny Gaudreau, given his talent, and he's going to be super low owned, I bet. And it's a nice little late hammer for you.
All right. I think with that, our favorite bets of the night.
Yeah, I mean, just one more thing on the Montreal side. We did see Gallagher and Toffoli paired up at 5-on-5. If that holds, I kind of like this Brendan Gallagher under on the shots. Like, we've never really seen him with a guy who controls just as much of the puck on his stick shots toward the net as Gallagher does. So I think getting under 3.5, like, that's just a really high number for a guy who we know has time on ice issues, let's say. Like, he has issues getting on the ice for 17 minutes in a night. So that's like the one under that I think, keep an eye on what happens against Vancouver, but minus 143 on that, I kind of like. So let's talk about some of our favorite bets.
All right. I already, think mine are going to come out to be very obvious. Atkinson shot prop, Svechnikov shot prop, and Pavelski shot prop, I think are the three shot props I like the most. The goals, I think Palat's actually really strong the more I think about it. And DeBrincat, those are a 5. I'll give you 5 for the price of 2 that I normally do.
Wow, you just went in there and basically stole all of my thunder. So
perfect. I wanted it.
Yeah, I mean, I think my favorites. I agree with most of yours there. Let's not get too cute or whatever. I think those are the right ones to target, especially on the shot prop side. I think that this Brock Nelson to score, I feel really good about him. I really like him in DFS. So let's go with Brock Nelson plus 240 anytime goal. If you want that top power play exposure instead, Beauvillier, same price, plus 240, could absolutely do that instead. But I'm pretty ambivalent either way. Otherwise, Dallas money line, absolutely in on that one. And I think the Washington money line is also very good. Minus 108. Just, I don't really see it out of this Flyers team at the moment. So any other bets that you think we should mention?
No, I'll be tweeting some out tomorrow, and I'm sure, we'll go over that and, get in our Morning Skate Pod Discord if you want to talk more about daily fantasy mainly. But if you have any questions on bets or anything, we'll go over it with you in there. With that being said, I think we'll get to a few of our favorite stacks of the night over on DraftKings. So, Matt, I stole all of the thunder last time. So let me pass it to you so I don't steal your thunder over here on the stacks.
Yeah, I think building around a chalk Jeremy Davies is a good way to sort of take advantage of the fact that if he fails, he's probably taking the rest of your lineup with him, of course. But in the case that he does well, it's almost certainly through getting, multiple points. So I think stacking him with his power play one mates and Philip Forsberg and Eli Tolvanen makes for a really good, low priced way to get high upside, and gets you a guy in Phil Forsberg who is very expensive, but he should be low owned because of that. And just, I really like the game environment in general. So that's going to be my first stack.
Yeah, I think I'm going to stick right to it with the Gord line, the Gord, Killorn, Stamkos. If you want to put Hedman with the whole thing, I think even going 4-man is in play. Or, even taking out a guy like Killorn or a guy like, I guess Gord would probably make more sense to get that full power play correlation. And if you like the point line more, go with it. It obviously is a little bit more expensive. It's not going to break the bank though. Stamkos is so expensive that it's probably pretty close to the middle. So I think either of those two stacks against Detroit are in play here.
Okay. For my
last time I faded it and was right.
All right, for my second one, I'm going to take the Washington top power play. I don't like playing Nick Backstrom, so I'm just going to go Ovi, John Carlson, TJ Oshie. You could also go TJ Vrana or TJ Vrana. My God, I'm morphing these guys together. Jacob Vrana, you can go Vrana in there for sure, but Oshie at 5-on-5 and on the power play. I think that's a little bit better, but really just like that top power play overall for Washington.
Yeah, no, I think that's really, really good. I mean, this one is, I think I'd end up just going with two man on this, but I think you could talk me into trying to put it together as three. But I really like Werenski and Atkinson. I think that those two guys have, multi-point, shot bonus upside together. Each of them getting there. You could conceivably play Nick Foligno with it. I probably wouldn't, but it would correlate on the power play and 5-on-5. He's 3,800, but he just kind of has that, like, if he doesn't assist on those goals, he might end up zeroing out for you and just really tanking your lineup. He's not a complete dud when it comes to shot rate, but he's not strong enough for me to like absolutely want to jam him in. So I think Atkinson Werenski is a really good mid-tier, cheapish way to get like huge GPP upside without, high ownership. A, you're not going to have high ownership, and B, just what was it? Not breaking the bank, and you can still kind of get those other plays we mentioned with Tampa Bay, Carolina, that I think are going to be really, really popular.
All right,
good.
So if you want to hear more about this DFS slate, check out the Morning Skate podcast, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, on Twitter at Morning Skate Pod for more there. But that will do it for this show. So as always, big thanks to PrizePicks for sponsoring the show. Make sure you sign up over there, prizepicks.com, using the code MMN when you sign up for a up to $100 match deposit bonus. So DJ, anything else before we get out of here?
No. Congratulations to the NHL for signing over with ESPN. I hope that is fun and interesting and brings some good content. And, I know we're all crushed that, we might end up losing Pierre, to the broadcast. And I'm personally taking it very hard. I'm not going to know which player had his coach when he was coming out of the womb.
Pre-mite,
pre-mite. So it's going to be tough. We're going to definitely, pour one out for that. But, overall, I am excited about it. I hope it leads to more revenue for the league, more revenue for the players, higher cap, everything. And, obviously them not putting the Sabres on is going to be great.
I just really look forward to ESPN saying like, all right, so how NBC, you put on like the Sabres and the Red Wings, 100 times a year and just call it a year. We're not going to do that. We're going to give you the fun players, and just like the NHL, like their boardroom's going to just blow into smithereens. It'll be like, oh my God, like what happened?
There is a very prominent member of ESPN that went to St. Bonaventure that isn't even Adrian Wojnarowski. And you know what? I'll just send the DM. I met him one time. He'll never remember me in a million years. He's like one of the VPs though. And I'm just like, hey, listen, let me just pick all the games for you guys. That's it.
Yes, we'll give you the best games.
Maybe $0. Like, I don't want any. I'll pay you to do this.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's something that we'll definitely be hearing more about as time goes on, but it is definitely a big development for the league. And I think for everyone who enjoys the NHL. So I'm very excited about that, and ESPN kind of getting back in the fold. I loved hearing the music, in their promo. So, all right. You can find me on Twitter. I'm at Fake Moods. DJ's at DJ_Mitchell94. And make sure you like this episode. If you're on YouTube, give us an old thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe, on YouTube or on the podcast platforms if you're choosing. And follow the Mayo Media Network on Twitter at Mayo Media Net. And DJ, of course, as always, love your Yager jersey. So make sure you're on YouTube.
I'm sorry. I just was showing it off to the people that actually watch the video, as you should be every time. Okay. Sorry. I don't know.
Best of luck out here on Thursday night, fellas. We will see ya.